Hi, everyone, and our distinguished guests. Thank you so much for being here today to attend our webinar. And before we commence our event today, I want to acknowledge that we are on Aboriginal land. We pay our respect to elders past, present, and future, and give thanks to people from the First Nation on which we are living and working. This land always was, always will be Aboriginal land. I also want to acknowledge the great work that all frontline workers are doing during this difficult time. Services such as the health profession, police, teachers, and everyone who is working in the front line, as well as all of you who have been doing an amazing job service delivery intact. My name is Delilah, and I'm the Community Liaison Officer with the Department of Community and Justice. Today, we will have 5 speakers from different essential services in New South Wales that work with international students in different capacities. And there will be unfortunately, limited chance to ask questions as we have more than 60 participants today. Saying that, please use the chat box found on your top screen or the bottom screen to ask a question, and we will try our best to answer some of these questions. And the rest will be forwarded to the right speakers to seek answers. Please try to write short, direct questions so we utilize the time efficiently. And as we all know that there are lots of uncertainties during this time due to the COVID-19 pandemic for international students, were hugely impacted due to these uncertainties and changes. Lots of people are left with many questions, and we are hoping today we can give some clarity around that and try our best to answer some of your concerns. I want to thank our presenters who gave up their valuable time to be here with us today and try to provide the update and information. I also wanted to thank NRNNA, Women Forum, Nari Nukanja Australia, hopefully I pronounced it right, my apologies, who done an amazing job to put this together with our department during these difficult times. One point on the housekeeping, please, being recorded, Justice New South Wales YouTube page, participant images and details will not be shown. Please mute your mic and keep background noise down. And also on the screen, stop your video so we can have one presenter and their presentation one at a time. And now I would like to introduce Sukriti Bahata. She is the National Secretary of NRNAA, Women Forum, to introduce our first guest speaker and also to acknowledge some of our VIP guests who are with us today. Sukriti, it's your floor.
Thank you so much, Delilah. Firstly, namaste and good afternoon, everyone. And thank you so much for taking out the precious time to be with us this afternoon, which I believe is such an important part of what we all do to provide the best information for our communities. Firstly, I would like to really acknowledge the partnership that we have with the Department of Communities and Justice, who have helped us to bring forth this particular program that will benefit the international students and the wider Nepali community. Now, there are, as you rightly mentioned, Delilah, we have some notable members of our community, and I would like to acknowledge them individually. Firstly, I would like to welcome to this webinar the participation of the councillor from the Nepali Embassy, Ms. Durpada Ju. Namaste and thank you for being here with us today. We've got notable members from the NRA National Committee, starting off with our President, Keshav Kornil Ju. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Likely, we also have our General Secretary, Gyanendra Ju, Anil Ju, our National Treasurer, Usha Kiran Baria, Ershad, who's also here with us today. And not to forget, we do have the international NRNA committee leaders, start up with the Vice President of the International Committee, Mr. Monokotri Ju. Thank you so much for being with us today. Mrs. Boma Limbi Ju, who's the International Women's Coordinator. Thank you once again for being with us today and accepting this invitation to participate. And likely, I would also like to acknowledge the presence of our valuable advisors who are here to be with us. So we've got Indra Bandi. Thank you so much for being here with us. We've got Shrijanadi, who's also here to participate. Again, I will be acknowledging everyone throughout the program. So if I do miss somebody, I do apologize in advance. But the other names that have come up is Hamro. We've got Rishi Acharya-ju. Thank you so much for the media coverage and thank you for participating with us today. And likely, I would also like to acknowledge our regional women coordinator, Ms. Janaki Paurildi. Thank you so much for being with us today. As I said, I will be acknowledging each and everyone's participation throughout the program, but I don't want to take much of your time because the most important people today are the presenters who are doing a fantastic job today. Now, I would like to move on to introduce Manjuji, who's the South Australian Nari Nukunja Women Coordinator, and I'd like to welcome her to do the welcome speech for today.
Hello everyone, good afternoon and namaste.
Manju, it's all yours.
Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah. Good afternoon and namaste everyone in today's program. Sukriti has just acknowledged everyone. I would like to just say all the representatives. We have got our NRNA and all the team members and Nari Nikunja members. The presenters, today's program presenters from Justice and Peace and all other speakers today. I can see Keshav Kornil Dai and Sandhyaji, everyone. As Sukriti has just acknowledged, I wouldn't waste much time on that now. So yeah, today's program, NRNA Women Forum Australia, Nari Nikunja, which we say, had put this forward to support the international students. During this COVID time, we all have been affected in some ways, but the international students who have been more vulnerable due to different circumstances, we are all aware of that there is a drastic change in their educational landscape, lots of issues in visas, graduation programs, lots of jobs. We all are aware of these, and we have been supporting, like in NRNA, Nari Nikunja Australia, and NRNA itself has the programs all in all the states in Australia, which we have been doing immediate support relief as well as facilitating them to access the support services and also providing emotional and social support. All these we have been trying our best, and what we hope is this program will also do more in sharing about the different services which will help them in coping this time. So I would like to welcome you all in this program, and we hope for the productive discussion so that whoever is present in this program will be able to support more and also to disseminate this information to those vulnerable students, which will help them more in coping this situation. Welcome you all, and thank you, Sukriti.
Thank you so much, Manju. That was really wonderful, and you've really set the tone for this afternoon. Now, I would like to move on to the formal presentation of the program, but before I do that, I would like to request my coordinator, Nari Nikunja National Coordinator, Ms. Sandhya Shah, to chair the program. Now, moving on, like I said, to the presentations for the day. Our first presentation is from Mrs. Ranju Thapa, who is not a new face from within the community. She is the current Principal Executive Officer from the Sydney City College of Management. And I don't think there's a better person than her who will be able to provide this particular platform and insight into how COVID-19 has impacted the international students and the community. So the floor is all yours, Ranjini. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sukriti. Hi, everyone, respected presenters, virtual audiences, and my fellow friends, and all well-wishers of NRNA who presented today and not able to present, and Women Forum Nari Nikunja Australia and this community justice team. My name is Ranju Thapa, and I'm the CEO of Sydney City College of Management, as Sukriti already explained. Although we are meeting virtually, I would like to begin by paying my respect to the Indigenous people of Australia and traditional custodians of the land and the Burramatagal people. Next slide, please, Deirdre. Okay. I'd like to start the overview of contribution of overseas students to Australian economy, as like in the slide it's talk about 2018, but I'd just like to explain that 2019 actually the contributed about total $40 billion to our economy by international students, and which approximately 52,000 students, about 2.6 billion came from Nepal sector, making Nepal the third largest student import nation to Australia. Hence, we can see how the education sector has generated more than 200,000 jobs in Australia. Next slide, please. Revenue forecast before after COVID-19 outbreak presented by Victorian University, that you can see that how the enrollment has reduced drastically in 2020, and it's gone to till 2021, and we are hoping that probably come back in 2022 slightly up. Next slide, please. COVID-19 and its impact in the community. In early April, when it impacted in Australia, actually, it is actually started last year, November, December in China, but when it's really impacted in early April, COVID-19 became a reality for Australians. And since then, it has had profound implications on society as a whole. It is an aggregation to say that every student has been impacted by COVID. Most of them have either had reduced hours or lost their jobs completely. The loss, reduced income with constant uncertainty about the future has led to a significant increase in distress, anxiety, depression, and insomnia. Combining that with the social isolation, it has unfortunately harbored depressive and psychiatric disorders among the students, which I believe has increased the overall suicidal risk. And although most students might be able to get through this phase, I am unsure of what the long-term impacts this pandemic will have on their overall well-being. Next slide, please. How international student affected? Not only students and education market, actually, COVID-19 has badly impacted our community, women, children in multilateral ways. Mental health related issues have surged in the last few months. Students undertake casual employment to support their themselves. But since COVID-19 crisis erupted, many of those students have lost their casual jobs, their lifeline, which is putting their parents much on pressure back in Nepal. Business have been facing some sorts of problem. However, like other communities, Nepalese communities in Australia have joined hands to support affected groups of people, students, women, children, and temporary visa holders looking for support in the country. Many frontline workers in health sector of Australia have been working hard despite difficult situation. They are facing enormous challenges at their workplace, yet the ones that have been disproportionately suffering are the poor and disadvantaged, including many other migrants community and international students. Next slide, please. um, Still how the international affected students are affected. We would like to thank Australian government for lifting working hour limitation to limitation to international students during peak time of COVID-19 crisis. NSW government has actively worked in funding temporary crisis accommodation to vulnerable students where study NSW provided as well. And we are lucky few of the SCCM students were get opportunity to get those, accommodation as well. Likewise, government is providing thousands of emergency food hampers to international students across the student and activating welfare service hub to connect international students with support services. Information on accommodation and housing, emergency food relief, mental health, legal advice, and more. Across the country and states, the government and agencies like Centrelink and others showing other generosity and flexibility. But still, there, out of those, 2.6 billion dollar only from Nepal um, income, the international student, are looking a bit more from Australian government towards the international student support in this pandemic situation. How they affected, by the next slide, please. um, by this COVID, not only international student, actually the because of the international student affected, this has impacted all other community as well, and as well as the providers, because it is directly impacted. They are stakeholders. So several Cricos providers have been affected by COVID as the international cohort have returned permanently. According to Nepalese embassy, over about 500 Nepalese students also have returned back home country. Due to reduction in enrollment and visa grant, likewise withdrawals have put financial pressure on institutions, resulting in multiple job losses in education sectors and volunteer administrations. And a lot of other international students, not talking about Nepalese, actually Brazilian and others as well, have returned back their country, and a lot of education provider has shut down voluntarily their administration down, so it has impacted in job as well as the providers. Next slide, please. um, I would like to extend, though, that my sincere gratitude to the Australian government, and its wings for get together and with us in difficulties ways. Next slide, please. Okay, but just like to touch base, that's how exactly the SCCM, Sydney City College of Management, has been affected and approach to those students to undertake. Like, we started to do the survey to the student. Out of those survey, about 25 students um, expressed uncertainty and increase in overall mental stress. We implemented the fee relief strategy so that we can alleviate one of the difficulties they might facing over the past few months, that we discounted over 55,000 in fees. We have also introduced a mentorship program to help those who are finding it hard to focus on their studies. We expect a 40% uptake in the program. We hope that the other Cricos provider also followed suit and put the well-being of their students first. And I know a lot of other provider, higher education, and have been already doing those kind of things as well through their student support and fee relief, relief programs. We believe all the education providers in Australia has taken this strategy and working together with the affected students closely to support as much as possible. Next slide, please. Um, you know, approach is taken to minimize the effects of COVID-19 by NRNA Australia was tremendously respectable with the collaboration with Nepal Embassy and other Nepali organizations, community organization, to mobilize the resources. Um, next slide, please. Okay, the NRNA was able to collect 109K with the help of 68 community-based organizations, and out of that, 21K from the Australian, the government agencies. And that was grateful to all supporters, group organizations and volunteers from NRNA and from other community organization and the doctors organization, AMDA, and COVID-19 Relief Task Force, Nepal Embassy, all business communities who have joined hands in recent days to coordinating support service to all vulnerable affected students, international students. Next slide, please. And this slide has this data is taken from NRNA report, and if anyone wants, we can send that report separately as well, which has detailed information there. Actually, the Australian Nepalese Medical and Dental Association, called AMDA, is able to reach via hotline 1-800-413-667 from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. And this number, NRNA help desk number, and other time also the student can contact these numbers to get the support and information from NRNA. But from 7 to 9 p.m. every day, they can get the mental health or issues or any advice they can get from the doctors organization. And by the way, they are actually more importantly, they support relief campaign, and their dental association actually virtual awareness campaign every day on call basis on the mental health and COVID-19 issue they are organizing. And support from next slide, please. Also, there is a one, Australian Education Consultants Alliance, ACA, organization, who also able to collect some fund to support those vulnerable students. Next slide, please. Embassy of Nepal developed an emergency registration form for international students affected by COVID-19. So far, 1,940 students actually filled those forms and submitted the forms to Embassy. And as I said earlier, out of those forms, Embassy actually able to send about 500 students with the help of NRNA and other agency to chartered flight to Nepal. Next slide, please. And there are a lot of other organizations, that's Red Cross, Safety Net Support, and the Council of International Students Australia, CISA. They all were there to support these international students there. Next slide, please. And I have trying, I'm trying to put some contact details for those international students or those information looking that they are, NRNA Australia, ECA, AMDA, Embassy Nepal is always there for all Nepalese international student, vulnerable student, and NRNA always work with other communities. Like there are almost 68 community organizations supported together with NRNA Australia. And Nari Nikunj NRN Women Forum is there, always there to work together with NRNA Australia to support these vulnerable students in mental health, as well as all the support kind of fee relief or food distribution, all these kind of help. Next slide, please. At the end, let's fight together. I'm sure our community, women, students, and volunteers will overcome with this audio soon and get back to normal business. And thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you so much, Ranju Didi. That was absolutely that was very informative. And as Ranju Didi has said, the slides will be made available to everyone post the webinar. And if anybody is keen on getting the sources of the data, that will be made available as well. As I did mention at the very start, as you know, individuals start participating in the webinar, I will continue to acknowledge them. So keeping in light with that, I would like to acknowledge the presence of our Consul General, Mr. Deepak Kharkaju. Thank you for attending. Similarly, I would like to acknowledge the presence of Dr. Bharat Paudelju, a very notable member of our community, and likely the NRNA Public Officer, Mr. Komal Raj Pathakju. Thank you so much for being here with us. Similarly, a notable community member, leader, I must say, Mr. Hupati Gurungdai. Thank you so much for being with us today. And likely, Mr. Tirtharaj Karkiju. Thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you. Now, I would like to pass it on to Delilah, who will present the next speaker for the evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Sukriti, and welcome to the new guests. We are really honored to have you among us today. Thank you. It's my pleasure to introduce now Toshi Kawagachi. Toshi, he's the Associate Director, Study New South Wales at the New South Wales Treasury. His services is very valuable to international students, and I'm sure you're going to benefit a great deal from his presentation. And please don't forget to ask your question. Put it in a chat while he is presenting, so we will have the chance to answer it. As Toshi has another urgent commitment, so he might leave us, unfortunately, after his presentation because he needs to attend another commitment, as I mentioned. So, Toshi, it's your floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Delilah. And Deirdre, if I could kindly ask you to pop up the slides, that'd be wonderful. In the meantime, allow me also to acknowledge and pay my respects to the traditional custodians of the land on which we are gathered across the state. For me, that's the Gadigal of the Eora Nation, and I'd like to acknowledge all the custodians of the land and on the land on which we're gathered. Sorry. Thank you. I see the slides now. And allow me also to acknowledge our distinguished guests. Deepak, it's lovely to see you again on camera. I wish we could be together. And a big thanks to the Department of Justice for making this possible today and for all the collaborators. It's lovely to have the chance to address this audience. I'd like to acknowledge as well all the wonderful work that is taking place. And yes, I also want to acknowledge and salute all the wonderful work that is happening across the state. As Ranju alluded to, there are some wonderful initiatives in place, not only at the government level, but as well across NGOs and the private sector. And I want to salute all the wonderful work that's being done to help people during this difficult time. So today I'm here to talk a little bit about the work that Study New South Wales is doing to support international students across the state. And I'm delighted to share this information with you. If you do have any questions about the material that I raised, by all means, pop in a question in the chat and I'll be happy to address that. And if there are any questions at the end of the session, I'm happy to address those as well afterwards via email. So Deirdre, if I could ask you to change slides, thank you. Now, for those of you who don't know about Study New South Wales, we are quite a small unit that was established about 6 years ago. And we're part of the trade branch within the New South Wales Treasury. As Ranju mentioned, international education is an important export service for New South Wales, and we are based within the Treasury. And our main function is to support international students. We work under the guidance of an International Education Advisory Board, which has representatives from right across the sector through higher education, universities, vets, English teaching colleges, as well as from the business and edtech sectors. And we have a strong student voice as well through a representative of the Council of International Students of Australia, the peak body for international students. As I mentioned, our main function is to look to improve the experience of international students in the state. We also work to promote New South Wales as an education destination. We work to coordinate policy and advocacy for international education in the state. and also to support the New South Wales EdTech sector, which is also going through a bit of a boom during this period of social distancing. But as I stress, really our core purpose is to look to enhance the experience of international students in the state. We're very conscious of the wonderful contributions that our students make right across our communities. In fact, each year we celebrate these contributions through International Student Awards. And in the last few years, we have had a couple of really wonderful winners out of Nepal who have been contributing through their volunteering, and we're extremely grateful for that. And it's in recognition of those contributions that the government takes its responsibility towards our international students very seriously. And hence why we've established Study New South Wales. If I could ask you to move to the next slide. Now, it's no surprise, and our opening speakers have alluded to the challenges that we face under COVID-19. And while our international student population is not as big as it was last year because of the border closures, we still do have a significant population of international students in the state. At last count, it was around 150,000 of primary student visa holders still within New South Wales as of late August. And our Nepalese community is, of course, a significant portion of that international student community. At the state level, Nepal is the second largest source of international students. And as I say, those students make significant contributions. Next slide, please. So in recognition of some of the many challenges that our students still face while they are here, the New South Wales government has announced a $20 million package back in May to support our international students. And over the next few slides, I'd like to talk you through what that package comprises. Next slide, please. Now, the most important piece of this support package is around temporary crisis accommodation. The scheme that we have developed in partnership with purpose-built student accommodation providers and homestay providers is to offer temporary accommodation to those vulnerable international students who are in genuine need and have either lost or at risk of losing secure accommodation and have nowhere else to turn to. As Ranju mentioned, we know there are a lot of students out there who have lost their jobs, who aren't eligible for Commonwealth support, and are finding it hard to make ends meet. So this temporary accommodation scheme is designed to give people a chance to pull themselves together and land back on their feet. We have made the process to apply as straightforward as possible. We simply ask that students provide their passport details, a confirmation of enrolment in 2020, provide their visa details, and we understand that some students haven't been able to stay on their student visa, so we've extended the visa categories which are eligible. And we also ask that students provide a letter of support from their education provider. And that letter of support is something that can be obtained by communicating with your student support services team. We've shared with them a letter template which they can use to draft these letters of support. The temporary accommodation is for an initial period of 12 weeks, and we do hope to secure approval to extend that to 20 weeks if possible. So please we'll keep you posted about those developments. But there is a link there at the bottom of this slide where you can go to find out more information and apply. And I'm very happy for these slides to be shared with everyone after this meeting. Next slide, please. Another really important part of the support package that we have on offer is offering additional legal assistance. During these uncertain times, it is so important to be aware of your legal rights to ensure that you can protect yourself, particularly when it comes to dealing with some more unscrupulous employers or landlords. And so we have made available a wonderful app called My Legal Mate. And you can download this app for free. It's usually costs hundreds of dollars, but the government has made this app freely available to our international students. And you just have to hop onto our website to fill in a small application form, and you'll be sent a link to download this app. The app is really wonderful in the sense that it provides key pieces of legal information to international students in areas of critical need. And by that, I refer to employment, to housing, to any disputes that they might have with education providers, as well as in the area of sexual assault. And this information is delivered in a range of different languages and in a friendly face-to-face format. So I encourage you to take advantage of this offer, hop on the website and download the app, because as I say, it is full of really wonderful information that can help you navigate these uncertain times. Where the app doesn't have enough information for you, or where you have a more pressing legal need, I also note that the New South Wales Government makes available a free legal advice service for international students. This service is a service that we fund through the Redfern Legal Centre and is open to international students right across the state. So if you do have a legal issue that requires support, then please complete the online contact form. There's a link on the slide, and the service will be in touch with you to arrange an appointment. In recognition of the increased demand that our students are facing, or rather the service is facing, we have made available an additional solicitor for 6 months to address this increase in demand. Next slide, please. Another really important initiative for us has been to make available a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week hotline that you can call to find out more information about support that's available to you. Now, this is a general hotline that the New South Wales Government has made available to all New South Wales residents. But if you identify yourself as an international student, we are equipped with a particular script which offers advice about where you can turn to for particular areas of support. Some of these include mental wellbeing support, emergency food relief, assistance with paying bills, as well as the fact that New South Wales Health has actually waived all COVID-related healthcare costs, regardless of your insurance status. We have also included some information about a lot of the initiatives that are available or being made available through universities and TAFEs and other education providers to support international students, which is also can be drawn on by international students. Next slide, please. Now, we know how hard it is to make ends meet at the moment, and so we want to make sure that students' basic needs are being taken care of, and hence why we have invested in this accommodation scheme, but also why we are trying to ensure that issues of food insecurity are also being addressed. And so we have partnered with the Food Bank charity, which is a wonderful charity that distributes food hampers across the state, and we have made available thousands of food hampers specifically for international students in both Sydney and regional areas. It's very easy to access these food hampers. You simply have to call this number that's on the screen for Food Bank, and they will direct you towards the nearest collection point for food hampers. And they have a network of charity partners, as I say, right across the state where you can go collect these hampers. I'm also aware that our colleagues at the City of Sydney through Oz Harvest are also making food hampers available. Their system is also very simple to use. You just register to collect these hampers, and I believe they make them available on Thursday afternoons across a few collection points. So I encourage you to take advantage of that offer as well. Next slide, please. Clearly, mental well-being is also something that we take very seriously when it comes to supporting our international students, and we know how many challenges our students are facing at the moment and the impact that this can have on individuals' mental health. So I won't go into the detail here because I know we have an additional speaker in this space, but rest assured that we know this is a critical area and the government is investing in it. Next slide, please. We know also just how important employability is for our international students, and through a series of online webinars, we have been offering employability support through our partners at Outcome Life. We've been running a series of webinars on a range of issues to help students remain motivated, to offer tips around job applications in the job market in Australia, and as well offer some handy advice about particular fields of study for consideration. We still have one of these webinars that will be taking place on the 22nd of September, and you can register by clicking on the link on this slide or hopping onto our website and looking under the web event pages. And we do hope to make further webinars available soon, so keep an eye out and do sign up to our news channels to stay abreast of these new initiatives. Next slide, please. Now, all of the information that I've discussed is available on our website, not only the elements that I mentioned, but a range of other initiatives as well. We've actually developed what's called an International Student Welfare Services Hub, which has thematically arranged all the support that is available, not only at the New South Wales government level, but as well at local and federal levels and through NGOs and other providers. So I encourage you to visit this website, or our website rather, and check out the hub for a little bit more information about the areas of need that you're facing. Can I please invite everyone as well to follow us through our social media channels, whether it be on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, to make sure that you stay abreast of the new initiatives that we are pushing out there. We have a newsletter that we circulate regularly, which also contains valuable updates about programs that are on offer for international students. Everything that we talk about is free, and so I really do encourage our international students to take up and to follow us on these channels to find out more, because it's certainly our objective to help as many students as possible, and through your help and through raising awareness of these news channels, we're able to have a line of communication with our students and allow them to be the first to know about new developments in this space. Next slide, please. If I can finish on a positive note, I realize there are a lot of challenges that we are facing, but as well, I'm aware that during these times of intense pressure and intense need, we have seen a wonderful side of humanity, and a lot of colleagues across the public service and in the community are doing some wonderful things to support our international students. And I think it's really important to celebrate that and to draw attention to it. So across Australia, we are delivering a campaign called In This Together, with its accompanying hashtag, where we're trying to share stories of hope and of support that are being offered to other international students. So if you are aware of these stories, please do post them, share them, use the hashtag and tag us, because we'd love to help you amplify those stories. There is so much we can do together, and with this campaign, we are hoping to raise awareness of that. Next slide, please. So there you go. These are all our comms channels, and as I say, I encourage you to sign up because we'd love to stay in touch. We'd love to share with you the work that we're doing so that you can take advantage of it. And rest assured that while these are some of the programs that I've touched on and they're available now, we will continue to make new programs available as time progresses. So please sign up. I thank you all for your attention, and I'm very happy to take a few questions. I'll hop into the chat with Delilah if you wanted to serve as a mediator, and I can help address some of those questions.
Definitely. Tosh, thank you so much for this valuable information you just shared with us. I believe Study New South Wales is a go-to agency they're going to come to. There's a great deal of services to help the international students. I would like now to ask my colleague Sam. Sam Burka is a colleague of mine, is helping me to access the chat room. So there's a few questions there. So Sam, can you please share with us a couple of these questions, please?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Toshi, for the great presentation. I'd like a few questions. I will start with a short. Temporary crisis accommodation scheme be available in 2021?
It's a very good question, Sam. We have been given a fixed amount of funding for the time being. And so we're operating on the basis that we will try to fill all the spots that we can under the existing funding envelope. And we expect, though, that that'll likely happen before the end of the year. So students who are accommodated in 2020 under the 12, or we hope 20 weeks, will continue to be accommodated over the break into 2021. But it's quite possible that we will reach capacity before then. So that's how I would answer that at this stage. But obviously, we continue to review demand for the program, and yeah, we'll continue to be as flexible as we can on that.
Thank you. So there is another question says, how do you make sure to outreach to those students and deliver them the information? Says many students does not seem to get informed about the support program.
Mm-hmm. So look, we partner with the education sector in order to get these messages out. We have all of the comms channels that I mentioned during my presentation, and that's a wonderful way and a direct line to our international students. And the number of followers that we have continues to grow, but we know that we can't reach everyone necessarily, or at the moment we haven't been able to reach everyone through that channel. So we've been distributing this information through our universities, through the peak bodies, including IKEA and ITECA, which are the private education peak bodies, to circulate through their education providers. And we've been working with a lot of charity organisations, so whether it be the Sydney Alliance or Food Bank and others, to use their comms channels to get this information out. So we're hoping that through that, and as well through the media releases that our ministers have been putting out, we are able to reach a substantial portion of the population. But it is events like these and that allow us to reach new communities. And through your help, we are able to reach more people. So we're doing our best, but we can always do better. And I think with events such as these, yeah, we seek your assistance to get the word out.
Another question, Toshi, says why the rental hardship cannot be paid directly to the landlord or the student?
Sure. Look, and I think that's a very good question. The reality is there are lots of models that we could have adopted, but urgency was key here in developing this proposal. So we had to find a very quick way of getting a large-scale accommodation scheme up and running. As you would have seen in the media coverage, getting money into individuals' hands is actually harder than it seems. And we have to work through intermediaries to make that happen. So the model that we landed on in partnering with quality, reputable, purpose-built student accommodation providers and homestay providers was an absolute priority for us. And that way we could ensure that the money was being funded directly through quality providers, but also at a significantly discounted rate. The rate that we have secured under this accommodation scheme is well below market rate and does allow us to help a lot more students with the existing envelope. So for a range of reasons, we decided to go down this path. Yeah, it is the model that we landed on. It seems to be working quite well. We have had thousands of applications and we've been able to approve several thousand of those. And we'll continue to, as I say, try to stretch that assistance as much as possible. And this is the best way we've been able to do it so far.
Sorry for the repetition. Is the student accommodation support only through homestay or student accommodation? That's another question.
Sure, it is through both. So we have partnered with both purpose-built student accommodation providers as well as homestay providers. The way the scheme works is that we try to accommodate students as close to their existing accommodation as possible. We don't want to uproot students where that's possible. So depending on which is closer, a purpose-built student accommodation provider or homestay close, that's how we place the students.
Okay, and as you mentioned, Toshi, like Nepal is the second provider of international students in New South Wales. Questions is asking, with a significant increase in the number of Nepali students, what are the different platforms available for ongoing engagement with the New South Wales study? And the Nepali community discuss a range of different initiatives to support international students in the future.
Sure. So in terms of the best platforms, I'd suggest that, yes, digital engagement remains the best way in the current environment to connect with the community. those channels that are listed on my presentation through Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and we've actually launched WeChat as well, although I know that's not necessarily for this demographic. It's probably the easiest way to engage and to ensure that we amplify messages and that we share them. Our website, www.study.sydney, as I say, also houses a lot of information, and we'll be more than happy to communicate the assistance that's being provided through other channels via that website. So if perhaps, you wanted to get in touch through the study.nsw@treasury.nsw.gov.au email address and share some links or examples of support that's available to the Nepalese student community, we'd be very happy to help amplify those messages to ensure that we get them out. As I said, this is not something that we can do alone. If we can amplify your messaging and you can do the same for ours, we'll reach a far greater population.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Sam, and thank you so much, Toshi. Can you see, like, there's a lot of questions there for you, and really appreciated that you have shared a lot of links and platform that for the student, they can access it and be in touch with Study New South Wales. I would like to revisit again to say that we're going to share Toshi's presentation with all the participants that are here with us today. And if you have further questions for future, please email me. My email address is and security as well is on the flyer. You can email either one of us and we can pass it on to Toshi. Toshi, it's truly a pleasure having you with us today, and thank you so very much for your time. I know you're extremely busy and you just made time for us. Appreciate it. Thank you, and we'll be in touch with you.
Thank you very much, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend.
And now it is my pleasure to present our next presenter, Bandana Karaki. Bandana, she is the Nepali bilingual mental health worker, clinician, sorry, with the Southern East Local Health District. It's a long thing. She works at St. George Community Mental Health. And we are really blessed to have you among us because you are Nepalese and you're providing the your service to the Nepalese community. So please, the platform is yours. Thank you.
Hi and namaste everyone. Thank you Delilah for introducing me, and thank you Sukirti, Nari Nikunj and Department of Community and Justices for organizing this program in collaboration, because our international students from Nepal are really facing difficulties at this time. I'm Bandana Karki from St. George Community Mental Health Center. I'm a Nepali bilingual mental health clinician. It's like Delilah said, it's a long title and the name of the workplace. I work in Kogra Workplace. I'll be presenting, some of the mental health challenges, especially with COVID-19 background that our Nepali international students are facing. But given the short time, I won't be able to. It's a vast topic, issue, subject, mental health, as you would know. I'll just be touching upon the important contacts that international students can reach out to get help from. So I won't be going into, and given that most of the participants are Nepali, I'll be taking the opportunity to speak in Nepali, and other English-speaking people in our panel, I'll be basically talking about whatever is in my presentation. So just a short form of that. So please feel free to look at that. Sabai Nepali participantहरूलाई मेरो नमस्ते छ। म चाहिँ पहिला स्टार्ट गर्नुभन्दा अगाडि I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians of the land I work on as the first people of this country and pay my respect to elders past and present. Next slide, please. Mental health issues, concerns को कुरा गर्नुपर्दा पहिला स्टिग्माको कुरा गरौँ, किनभने हाम्रो सोसाइटी जुन सोसाइटीबाट हामी आउँछौँ इभन यहाँ वर्ल्डभरि पनि स्टिल मेन्टल हेल्थ इस्युजहरू मेन्टल इलनेसलाई चाहिँ धेरै स्टिग्मा सोसाइटीमा प्रेभलेन्ट छ तर त्यो स्टिग्मा चाहिँ यो हाम्रो यो स्लाइडको स्ट्याट्समा हेऱ्यौँ भने 1 in 5 पिपल इन अस्ट्रेलियालाई चाहिँ मेन्टल डिस्ट्रेस लास्ट 12 महिनामा चाहिँ 5 मध्ये 1 जनाले चाहिँ एक्सपिरियन्स गरेकै हुन्छ मेन्टल डिस्ट्रेस त्यो भनेको 5 जनामा 1 जना भनेको धेरै नै हो हैन त्यही पनि किन स्टिग्मा छ भन्ने प्रश्न आउँछ हैन अनि हाम्रो लाइफ टाइममा चाहिँ 2 जना मध्ये हामी 2 जना मध्ये 1 जनाले चाहिँ केही न केही कुनै न कुनै फर्ममा मेन्टल डिस्ट्रेस एक्सपिरियन्स गरेकै हुन्छौँ अनि हाम्रो एभरेज पर्सनको नेटवर्कमा 100 जना मान्छे छ भने चाहिँ 50 जना ठ्याक्क हाफ भनेको त्यो क्वाइट अ सिग्निफिकेन्ट नम्बर हो लाइफको कुनै स्टेजमा चाहिँ हामीलाई मेन्टल डिस्ट्रेस हुने नै गर्छ 50 जना जति मध्ये 100 मा हैन त्यो भनेको कोही पनि भल्नरेबल हुन सक्छ क्या सिचुएसनले गर्दा एजले गर्दा टाइमले गर्दाखेरि लाइफको सिचुएसन त्यसैले स्टिग्मा चाहिँ स्टिल रहनु चाहिँ ठुलो दुःखको कुरा हो किनभने हामीलाई पनि भोलि पर्सि पर्न सक्छ त्यही भएर सपोर्टिभ बनाऊ जसलाई मेन्टल डिस्ट्रेस छ भनेर मात्र देखाउन खोजेको एउटा एन्ड नेक्स्ट स्लाइड प्लिज अब मेन्टल इलनेस के हो भनेर म एकदम सर्टमा जान्छु यो फुल डेको स्लाइड्सहरू हो यो गिभन द सर्ट टाइम यस्तो ग्रुप अफ कन्डिसन हो मेन्टल इलनेस भनेको चाहिँ जसले हाम्रो थिङ्किङ होइन फिलिङ बिहेभियरमा चाहिँ अल्टर गरिदिन्छ चेन्जेस ल्याइदिन्छ होइन हामी जसरी अहिले आई कन्ट्याक्ट गरेर मान्छेहरूसँग कुरा गर्दाखेरि लजिकल रिस्पोन्सेसहरू कोहरेन्ट रिस्पोन्सेसहरू दिन सक्छौँ त्यो चाहिँ हामीलाई केही गरी मेन्टल इलनेस भएको छ भने चाहिँ हाम्रो थट्स फिलिङ्स बिहेभियर चाहिँ पुरै अल्टर चेन्ज भएर पर्सेप्सनहरू चेन्ज भएर चाहिँ हामीले त्यो जुन हामीले नर्मल भन्छौँ नि त्यो गर्न सक्दैनौँ त्यसरी इन्ट्रेक्ट गर्न सक्दैनौँ होइन एकदमै सरल भाषामा भन्नुपर्दा त्यही नै भन्नु पर्ला अब मैले अघि नै टच गरिसकेँ सेकेन्ड नम्बरमा इट क्यान इन्टरफियर विथ द वे अ पर्सन इन्टरेक्ट्स विथ अदर्स एन्ड म्यानेजेस एभ्रिडे च्यालेन्जेस अफ लाइफ भन्छ नि अभियसली मेन्टल इलनेस भएको मान्छेले चाहिँ डे टु डे फङ्सनिङमा चाहिँ उसलाई गाह्रो पर्छ अनि जस्तो अब यो अरू त्योभन्दा तल अरूकोमा नजाऊँ होइन किनभने आज एकदम सर्टमा बेसिक एक्सप्लेनेसनमा मात्र जाऊँ यो स्लाइड्स चाहिँ पछि डिटेलमा हेर्न सबैलाई अभाइलेबल भइहाल्छ म अर्को नेक्स्ट स्लाइडमा जान्छु अब थ्याङ्क यू मैले चाहिँ यहाँ सबै मेनिया बाइपोलर अरू क्याटेगोरिजहरू राखेको छैन मेन्टल डिस्ट्रेस र इलनेसको कमन सबभन्दा कुनै केही टाइप मेन्टल हेल्थ कन्डिसन्सको केही टाइप चाहिँ के हो भन्दा चाहिँ अब डिफ्रेन्ट डिसअर्डरहरू हुन्छ जस्तो एङ्जाइटी भन्ने हामी सबैलाई थाहा छ डिप्रेसन भन्ने थाहा छ है एङ्जाइटी डिसअर्डर हुनसक्छ इटिङ डिसअर्डर मुड डिसअर्डर पर्सनालिटी डिसअर्डर है साइकोटिक डिसअर्डर अनि सब्सटेन्स युज रिलेटेड डिसअर्डर भन्नु लागु पदार्थहरूको युजले पनि हुने डिसअर्डरहरू हुनसक्छ डिप्रेसन सेल्फ हार्म सुसाइड साइकोसिस धेरै हामीले देख्ने अरू मेनिया बाइपोलर होइन धेरै अरूहरू पनि छ हामीले कमनली सुनिरहनेहरू यही सजिलो होला भनेर मैले यति राख्दैछु अहिलेलाई नेक्स्ट स्लाइड प्लिज अब हाम्रो अहिलेको हेर्दाखेरि चाहिँ नि मैले पनि यहाँ काम गर्न थालेदेखि चाहिँ मैले देखेको इन्टरनेसनल स्टुडेन्ट स्पेसली भाइहरूमा अन्डर 25 भाइहरूमा चाहिँ यो COVID-19 को स्ट्रेसर्स एक ठाउँमा छँदैछ त्यो अरूले टच गरिसक्नु भयो रन्जु दिजुले गर्नुभयो टोशीले गर्यो होइन मैले चाहिँ मेन्टल हेल्थ पर्सपेक्टिभबाट हेर्दाखेरि चाहिँ अब करेन्ट स्ट्रेसर्सहरू अभियसली उहाँहरूले भने जस्तै लस अफ जब ड्यु टु COVID-19 सिचुएसन कति क्याजुअल जबहरूमा थिए अनि फाइनेन्सियल डिफिकल्टिज अभियसली जब नभएपछि पे पनि भएन त्यसले गाह्रो हुन्छ तर मैले चाहिँ मेन्टल हेल्थ पर्सपेक्टिभबाट अहिले भोगिरहेको एक्सपिरियन्स गरिरहेको हाम्रो इन्टरनेसनल स्टुडेन्ट अन्डर 25 भाइहरूलाई चाहिँ मैले सपोर्ट गरिरहेको चाहिँ के भने एकदमै प्रेभलेन्स अफ क्यानाबिस इन्ड्युस साइकोसिस यो टर्म चाहिँ धेरै जसो यहाँ आउनु हुने क्याटेगोरीमा चाहिँ मैले डिआइडेन्टिफाई गरेर भनेको छु यो क्याटेगोरी चाहिँ पर्नुहुन्छ क्या क्यानाबिस इन्ड्युस साइकोसिस अनि मैले चाहिँ एकदमै निड देखाएको छु हाम्रो कम्युनिटीमा हामी सबै मिलेर यो बारेमा चाहिँ जति सक्दो हुन्छ इन्फर्मेसन डिसेमिनेट गर्न हामीलाई ढिलो भइसक्यो जस्तो लाग्यो कि मलाई हरेक अर्को भाइ चाहिँ इन्टरनेसनल स्टुडेन्ट अन्डर 25 चाहिँ यो प्रब्लम लिएर हाम्रो कम्युनिटी मेन्टल हेल्थ सेन्टरमा आइरहनु भएको छ अहिले त्यस जब छैन यसको औषधिहरू फेरि गभर्मेन्टले अब यहाँ आउट अफ ड्युटी अफ केयर इन्टरनेसनल भिजा भएकोलाई पनि आउट अफ ड्युटी अफ केयर इमर्जेन्सीमा मेन्टल हेल्थ इनपेसेन्ट युनिटमा उनीहरूले उपचार गरिदिन्छ त्यसपछि हाम्रो कम्युनिटीमा उहाँहरूलाई डिस्चार्ज भएपछि आउनुहुन्छ कम्युनिटी मेन्टल हेल्थ सेन्टरमा तर हामीले यो डेपो इन्जेक्सनहरू भन्छौँ एन्टिसाइकोटिक मेडिकेसनहरू भन्छौँ यो क्यानाबिस इन्ड्युस साइकोसिस भएकोहरूलाई रिल्याप्स प्रिभेन्सन र रिकभरीको लागि युज गर्नु पनि एन्टिसाइकोटिक मेडिसिन्सहरू एकदमै महँगो छ 400 एउटा इन्जेक्सनको 400 पनि पर्न सक्छ त्यो भएकोले यसै त जब लस छ त्यसमाथि पनि इन्टरनेसनल स्टुडेन्ट भिजामा हुनुहुन्छ धेरैले दुःख पाइरहनु भएको छ क्या जस्तो अब अर्को इलिगल भइहाल्यो होइन हामीले गाँजा जुन भन्छौँ नि विड भन्छौँ अझ उहाँहरूबाटै सुनेको अनुसार तोप भन्दो रहेछ बङ भन्दो रहेछ होइन यो यहाँ चाहिँ अब कुनै कुनै स्टडीहरूले चाहिँ नेपालमा हर्बल शुद्ध त्यो पातलाई रोल गरेर युज गर्ने गाँजा विड क्यानाबिस चलन चल्तीको भाषामा भन्दाखेरि त्यो खाइरहेको नेपालमा एकदम प्रेभलेन्स छ नि स्कुल टिनेज एजदेखि लिएर ब्याचलर्सहरूमा माथि यो गाँजा लिने अनि त्यहाँ त्यो हर्बल खाइरहेको होइन कम पोटेन्सीको खाइरहेको यहाँ पनि त्यही त हो नि भनेर भाइहरूले खानु हुँदो रहेछ इन्टरनेसनल स्टुडेन्टले अनि त्यो यहाँ चाहिँ कस्तो भने सिन्थेटिक क्यानाबिस हुन्छ नि त्यो मिसाएको हुनाले हाइली पोटेन्ट हुन्छ भन्ने कति स्टडिजहरूले कतै कतै यो के अरे स्टडिजहरूमा छ अनि त्यो हाइली पोटेन्ट भएको हुनाले जसको सेन्सिटिभ प्रिडिस्पोजिसन छ उनीहरूले चाहिँ ठ्याक्कै दिमागमा अब साइकोसिस हुन्छ क्या अनि त्यो जति रिल्याप्स हुँदै गयो त्यति रिस्की हुन्छ क्या उहाँहरूलाई अनि त्यसै त सिन्थेटिक भएको हुनाले लत लाग्छ एडिक्सन भएपछि फेरि रेजिस्ट गर्न सकिँदैन फेरि त्यो खाएपछि फेरि रिल्याप्स यही साइकल दोहोरिरहेको छ क्या म यसमा रियली स्ट्रेस गर्न चाहन्छु कि I've seen a need for psychoeducation on cannabis-induced psychosis. क्या हाम्रो international students under 25 years of age and peer pressure एकदमै हरेक सेकेन्ड पर्सनले गाँजा विड क्यानाबिस खाने भएको हुनाले रेजिस्ट गर्न पनि फ्ल्याटमा पनि हाम्रो कस्तो छ भने इन्टरनेसनल स्टुडेन्ट आउनुहुँदा बिचाराहरू अब त्यो पे गर्नको लागि मिलाउन 4-5 जना 3-4 जना बस्नुहुन्छ अनि त्यहाँ पनि अभोइड गर्न नसक्ने क्या अरूले खाएको नि त्यो पियर प्रेसर रेजिस्ट गर्न 25 अन्डर्स भएको हुनाले उहाँहरू गाह्रो भएको जस्तो लाग्छ नेक्स्ट पेज प्लिज थ्याङ्क यू म यो स्ट्रेस vulnerability sorry if you could keep pressing it or give me the controls if that's possible. Thank you. मैले चाहिँ यो स्लाइडमा मात्र छोडिदिन्छु धेरै एक्सप्लेन गर्दिनँ यसमा टाइम खान्छ यो चाहिँ हामीलाई कसरी लाइफमा सरी मेरो यहाँ स्लाइड्सहरुमा अलिकति प्रब्लम भयो I'm facing some problems with the control of my slides. I'm just going everywhere. Sorry, bear with me. Just let me come back to this. Yeah. यो stress vulnerability model चाहिँ अब full 1-2 days workshop मा हुन्छ तर I'll leave it in the slides so that you'll have more chance to look at it thoroughly. अब डिफरेन्ट छ नि हाम्रो लाइफको स्ट्रेसेसहरू वर्क प्रेसर लो एक्सर्साइज रिलेसनसिप स्ट्रेसेसहरू स्मोकिङ अनहेल्दी डायट्स अघि भने जेनेटिक डिस्पोजिसनले पनि कोही एकदम सेन्सिटिभ हुन्छ कसैलाई चाहिँ अलि त्यति असर नगर्ने पनि हुनसक्छ चाँडै रिलेसनसिप ब्रेकडाउन सब्सटेन्स मिसयुज अनइम्प्लोइमेन्ट अहिलेको कोभिडले अभियसली ट्रमा फिजिकल इलनेस जेनेटिक्सहरूले चाहिँ हाम्रो स्ट्रेस लाई चाहिँ बढावा दिन्छ अनि म यसमा धेरै जान्न म स्लाइडमै छोडिदिन्छु यसको लागि छुट्टै अर्को एक दिनको चाहिने हुन्छ मैले यहाँ अघि मैले भनेको प्रब्लम धेरै देखिया हुनाले हाम्रो इन्टरनेसनल स्टुडेन्टमा मैले ड्रग एन्ड एल्कोहल सर्भिसेस अब एडिक्सनहरूको लागि नि हाम्रो सेन्ट जर्जमा पनि छ त्यसको यहाँनिर कन्ट्याक्ट राख्दै छु त्यो हेर्नु होला यहाँहरूले एडिस भन्ने पनि छ ADIS एल्कोहल ड्रग्स सर्भिस हामीले गुगल गऱ्यो भने त्यो पनि आउँछ मैले कन्ट्याक्ट चाहिँ राख्दै छु म यसमा पनि धेरै बेलु गर्दिनँ अनि हामी अब कर्ल्ड कम्युनिटी कल्चरली एन्ड लिङ्ग्विस्टिकली डाइभर्स कम्युनिटिजको भावनाले अस्ट्रेलियामा नेपाली पपुलेसन नेपाली कम्युनिटी त्यसमा पर्छौँ त्यसैले मेन्टल डिस्ट्रेस र कल्चरल फ्याक्टर्सहरूले चाहिँ हाम्रो जस्तो अब हाम्रो आफ्नै एक्सप्लेनेटरी मोडल्सहरू हुन्छ नि मेन्टल डिस्ट्रेसको फर इक्जाम्पल हाम्रो कोही अहिले कन्ज्युमर भन्छौँ हामीले क्लायन्टहरूलाई उहाँहरू आउनुहुन्छ अनि हामी बोल्दाखेरि हाम्रो कम्युनिटीमा फर इक्जाम्पल कल्चरल चाहिँ हाँसेर होइन अलि सब्सर्भियन्ट अनि गिगल पनि गर्छौँ बोल्दाखेरि त्यो हाम्रो कम्युनिटीमा नर्मल मानिन्छ वेस्टर्न पर्सपेक्टिभमा हेर्दा चाहिँ इनअप्रोप्रिएटली गिगल गरेको हो कि यो मेन्टल साइकोटिक सिम्टम्स हो कि भन्ने पनि हेरिन्छ अनि हामीले चाहिँ एक्सप्लेन गरिदिन्छु यो कल्चरल पनि हुनसक्छ भन्ने त्यसैले हाम्रो आफ्नै कल्चरल फ्याक्टर्सहरू इन्टरप्रिटेसनहरू पनि हुनसक्छ भनेर डिफ्रेन्ट कल्चरको डिफ्रेन्ट त्यसैले इन्टरप्रेटिङ अघि मैले इक्जाम्पल दिए जस्तो इन्टरप्रेटिङ नर्मल बिहेभियरलाई पनि एभिडेन्स अफ डिस्ट्रेस भनेर वेस्टर्न मोडलमा लिन सक्ला त्यसैले मेरो रोल चाहिँ कल्चरल इन्टरप्रिटेसन दिनु पनि हो ताकि त्यसलाई abnormal behavior नलियोस् भनेर अनि dismissing signs and symptoms of distress as a cultural difference अघि मैले एक्सप्लेन गरिसकेँ यो अहिले म त्यसमा धेरै जान्न हामीलाई नेपाली कम्युनिटीलाई चाहिँ मल्टिकल्चरल हेल्थ NSW को भिक्टोरियाको धेरै ट्रान्सलेटेड मेन्टल हेल्थ इन्फर्मेसनहरू पनि छ त्यो मैले यहाँ के अरे स्लाइड्समा गरेको छु यहाँहरूलाई उपलब्ध हुन्छ यो धेरै युजफुल इन्फर्मेसनहरू छ यहाँहरूले हेर्नु होला अब सुसाइड अघि नै त्यो मलाई डिलाइलासँग भएको डिस्कसनमा चाहिँ नेपाली कम्युनिटीलाई सुसाइड र सेल्फ हार्म हामीले वरिपरि धेरै सुनिरहेछौँ देखिरहेछौँ भनेर भने हुनाले मैले यो पनि एकचोटि जस्ट टु टच अन इट राख्दै छु होइन हामीले एउटा भन्दा चाहिँ डाइड बाई सुसाइड भन्छौँ कमिटेड सुसाइड कमिट गरे भनेर पोलिटिकली करेक्ट हुँदैन त्यो कमिटेड सुसाइड भन्दैन आजकल रुचाउँदैन डाइड बाई सुसाइड भन्छ अनि के गर्ने त हाम्रो कम्युनिटीमा अब कसैले सेल्फ हार्म हुन्छ नि गर्न त्यसमा उ छ भने वाट आर सम अफ द डुज भनेर अब सिचुएसनलाई सिरियसली लिने आफूलाई भित्र आफू प्यानिक भइरहेछ भने सक्छ भने काम भएर एम्पथेटिक भनेको अब काइन्ड हुन्छ नि उसप्रति एक्टिभ लिसनिङ गरेर उसको सुनिदिने अनि सो यु केयर बाई गिभिङ यु टाइम कतिको रिस्क कतिको छ उसलाई या आफूलाई त्यो बारेमा असेस गर्ने एक्जामिन गर्ने सिचुएसन अनि उसको हामीलाई एउटा मिथ के छ भने सुसाइड गर्न लागेको मान्छे हार्म गर्न लागेको मान्छेलाई चाहिँ सोध्नु हुँदैन उसको प्लान छ कि छैन त्यसबाट डिस्ट्र्याक्ट गर्नुपर्छ डाइभर्ट गर्नुपर्छ भनेर छ त्यो एउटा मिथ हो हामीले चाहिँ उसलाई डिरेक्टली सुसाइड तिम्रो के प्लान छ केले गर्ने सोचा छौ के प्लान बनाउँछौ भनेर डिरेक्टली सोध्न सकिन्छ अनि आफ्नो अभियसली आफ्नो सेफ्टी पनि एन्स्योर गर्नु होला मद्दत गर्दाखेरि अनि यहाँ चाहिँ मैले केही इम्पोर्टेन्ट कन्ट्याक्ट नम्बर्सहरू राख्दै छु अघि टोशीले पनि हि टच अन द्याट मेन्टल हेल्थ लाइन नम्बर मैले चाहिँ नेपाली कम्युनिटीलाई मलाई धेरैले सिधै रेफरल गर्न आउनुहुन्छ तर रेफरलको मेन एकदमै इम्पोर्टेन्ट नेपाली कम्युनिटीमा इन्फर्मेसन दिनुपर्ने चाहिँ एउटा मेन्टल हेल्थ लाइन गुगल पनि गर्न सक्नुहुन्छ यसको 1800 नम्बर छ होइन मैले यहाँ राखिदिएको यो त्यसमा कोही मान्छेलाई हाम्रो नेपाली कम्युनिटीमा मेन्टल हेल्थ त्यो कन्सर्न्स कसैको बारेमा छ भने यो नम्बरमा चाहिँ मेन्टल हेल्थ लाइनमा 1800-011-511 मा चाहिँ खबर गरिदिनु होला फोन गरिदिनु होला अथवा उनीहरूको फ्यामिलीलाई गर्न लगाउनु होला यो चाहिँ ट्रायज बडी हो उनीहरूले ट्रायज गरेर कहाँ पठाउने हुन्छ नि इमर्जेन्सीमा मेन्टल हेल्थ इनपेसन युनिटमा त्यहाँनिर पठाउँछ यो चाहिँ धेरैभन्दा धेरै नै चाहिँ म तल पनि राखेको छु यहाँहरूले नेपाली कम्युनिटीमा फैलाइदिनु होला किनभने कतिजनालाई थाहा हुँदैन अरू कन्ट्याक्टहरु पनि छ यहाँ स्लाइडमा अवेलेबल हुन्छ तर केही गरी मान्छे चाहिँ डेन्जरमा अथवा इमर्जेन्सी सिचुएसन छ भने चाहिँ उसको लाइफ नै डेन्जरमा छ भने चाहिँ 000 अभियसली अनि इमर्जेन्सी लगिहाल्नुपर्छ अब मैले धेरै चाहिँ अस्ति डिलाइलासँगको डिस्कसनमा चाहिँ नेपाली कम्युनिटीलाई कन्ट्याक्टहरु चाहिँ धेरै कहाँ लाने त के गर्ने भन्ने हुनाले मैले त्यो धेरै खोजेर त्यो उसमा मेन फोकस गरेर हाल्दै छु है कसरी एक्सेस गर्ने त मेन्टल हेल्थ सर्भिसेस भनेर बियोन्ड ब्लूमा पनि हामीले रेकमेन्ड गर्ने नेपाली रिसोर्सेस धेरै छ नेपाली भाषामै लेखिएको छ मैले यहाँ साइडमा स्लाइडमा राख्दै छु कोरोना भाइरस मेन्टल वेलबिङ सपोर्ट सर्भिस भनेरै नम्बरहरु छ कति अनलाइन फोरम च्याट अनलाइनहरु पनि छन् ट्रिपलमा मैले अघि भनिहालेँ इमर्जेन्सीमा 000 अनि इन्फर्मेसन नेपालीमा मैले यहाँ वेबसाइट लिंक राख्दै छु त्यो पेज पनि त्यसको पनि राख्दै छु स्निप पनि कोरोना भाइरस मानसिक कल्याण समर्थन सेवा भनेर नेपाली भाषामै छ अर्को चाहिँ यो सपोर्ट पनि छ अनलाइन कोरोना भाइरस मेन्टल वेलबिङ सपोर्ट सर्भिस भनेर टाइप गर्नुभयो भने सुसाइड एन्ड क्राइसिस सपोर्ट पनि छ मेन्टल हेल्थ लाइन अघि मैले भने जस्तै त्यो चाहिँ बेस्ट नम्बर हो त्यो नै कसैलाई नेपाली कम्युनिटीमा त्यस्तो भएको तपाईलाई थाहा भएन कहाँ पठाउने यो मान्छेलाई के गर्ने कि इन्फर्मेसन दिने थाहा भएन भने डेन्जरमा छ भने 000 नभए मेन्टल हेल्थ लाइन 1800 नम्बर अघिको त्यसैमा गर्न लगाउनु होला या गरिदिनु होला reachout.com भन्ने पनि छ त्यसमा पनि धेरै इन्फर्मेसनहरु पाउँछ हामीले यो मैले स्लाइड्समा तपाईहरुलाई पाइहाल्छ इन्फर्मेसन हैन मेन्टल हेल्थ रिसोर्सेस नेपाली ल्याङ्ग्वेजमा मैले एउटा चाहिँ भिक्टोरियामा हुनुभएको हाम्रो साइकियाट्रिस्ट डाक्टर अनुपम पोखरेल हुनुहुँदो रहेछ उहाँले चाहिँ नेपाली साइकियाट्रिस्टहरुसँग मिलेर एउटा ब्लग बनाउनु भएको रहेछ त्यसमा पनि नेपाली भाषामा नेपाली साइकियाट्रिस्टहरुले आफैले राखेको इन्फर्मेसनहरु देखे त्यो पनि युजफुल हुन सक्ला त्यसैले mentalhealthnepal.com भनेर छ अनि हेल्थ ट्रान्सलेसन्स भिक्टोरिया को पनि राखेको छु तल wayahead.org मा पनि नेपाली रिसोर्सेसहरु छ त्यसको ट्रान्सलेसन अलिकति जटिल लाग्न सक्ला तर पनि युजफुल हुन सक्छ मैले अघि तपाईहरुलाई यो देखाएको मेन्टल हेल्थ लाइन 1800 नम्बर एकदमै इम्पोर्टेन्ट छ त्यसमा कसैलाई पनि रिफर गर्न सक्नुहुन्छ तपाईहरुले यो 24 आवर सर्भिस हो एनएसडब्ल्यू मा जहाँ कहीँबाट पनि एनएसडब्ल्यू मा यसमा कल गर्न सक्नुहुन्छ थाहा भएन भने यो नम्बर म एम्फसाइज एकदमै गर्छु किनभने धेरैलाई नेपाली कम्युनिटीमा थाहा छैन कहाँ लाने भनेर मेन्टल हेल्थ कन्सर्न हुँदा यसमा कल गरिदिने इमर्जेन्सी बाहेक इफ मेन्टल हेल्थ लाइनमा अघि मैले भनिहालेँ प्रोफेसनल हेल्प र एडभाइस पाइन्छ अनि उनीहरूले नै लोकल मेन्टल हेल्थ सर्भिसेसमा रिफर गरिदिन्छन् अर्को अप्सन चाहिँ त्यो मान्छेको जीपीसँग सल्लाह लिन सकिन्छ अनि त्यो मान्छे अब अलरेडी हाम्रो कन्ज्युमर हो क्लायन्ट हो हैन क्लायन्ट हो कन्ज्युमर हो भने चाहिँ हाम्रो कम्युनिटी मेन्टल हेल्थको हो भने चाहिँ उसको क्लिनिशियन को हो तिनीहरूको छ डिस्चार्ज भइसकेको छैन स्टिल करेन्ट कन्ज्युमर हो भने चाहिँ लोकल कम्युनिटी मेन्टल हेल्थ सेन्टरमा अक्युट केयर टिम भन्ने हुन्छ आफ्टर आवर्स टिम उनीहरूलाई पनि गर्न सकिन्छ लाइफ लाइन भन्ने पनि छ अर्को सुसाइडल उसलाई सपोर्ट गर्ने नम्बर्सहरु हेड स्पेस पनि छ यंगस्टर्सहरुको लागि हैन हर्सफिल्डमा मिरान्डामा अनि इमर्जेन्सीमा त अगेन 000 गर्ने भइहाल्यो सरी मेरो स्लाइड्समा फेरि मैले गडबड गरे बियोन्ड ब्लू धेरै नै हेल्पफुल छ अरु मैले यिनीहरु राखेको छु हैन reachout.com अघि मैले एक्सप्लेन गरिहालेँ माइन्ड स्पटहरु यो अगेन भएको इन्फर्मेसनहरु हाल्दै छु मैले बियोन्ड ब्लू र लाइफ लाइनको वेब च्याट अब आजकलको हामी डिजिटली एकदमै भएको जेनेरेसन छौं नि त त्यो भएर च्याटहरु पनि कम्फर्टेबल हुन सक्छ भनेर अर्को अब मैले काम गर्ने सेन्ट जर्ज मेन्टल हेल्थ सर्भिस कम्युनिटी मेन्टल हेल्थ सर्भिस हो यहाँनिर नम्बर छ आफ्टर आवर्स हामी चाहिँ कम्युनिटी मेन्टल हेल्थमा चाहिँ एकचोटि मेन्टल हेल्थ इनपेसेन्ट युनिटबाट डिस्चार्ज भएपछि मात्र यहाँ रिफर गर्छ त्यसैले अरु चाहिँ मेन्टल हेल्थ लाइन अघिको दिएकोमा उनीहरूले अक्युट केयर टिमले पहिला हेरेर यो आफ्टर आवर्स नम्बर चाहिँ यो हो है कम्युनिटीको 5 आफ्टर 5 र विकेन्ड्समा चाहिँ यो एक्युट केयर टिमलाई कल गर्नुभयो हुन्छ विक डेजमा 8:30 to 5 मा चाहिँ यो नम्बरमा तर पनि पहिला चाहिँ मेन्टल हेल्पलाइनबाट जानु सल्लाह दिन्छु म सदरल्यान्डमा पनि छ हाम्रो त्यस्तै सेन्ट जर्ज एन्ड सदरल्यान्ड भएको हुनाले अब कसरी आफ्नो केयर गर्ने त हैन सेल्फ केयर पनि एकदमै इम्पोर्टेन्ट छ फर एक्जाम्पल इभन एटलिस्ट ब्रिस्क वक 30 minutes पर डेहरू पनि माइन्डफुल मेडिटेसन एप्सहरू छ आजकल मोबाइल एप्सहरू माइन्ड द बम्प स्माइलिङ माइन्डहरू भन्ने त्यो पनि 10 minutes अब एभिडेन्स बेस्ड रिसर्चले देखाएको छ 10 minutes एभ्री डे माइन्डफुलनेस मेडिटेसन गर्यो भने स्ट्रेस कम गर्न सकिन्छ भनेर आजकल एकदमै बजवर्ड जस्तै नै छ माइन्डफुलनेस मेडिटेसन भनेर तर यो इफेक्टिभ पनि छ अब हामी जस्तो प्रोफेसनलहरूलाई चाहिँ सुपरभिजन काममा कन्सल्टेसन पियर सपोर्टहरू हैन वर्क लाइफ ब्यालेन्सहरू इभन काममा पनि भेराइटी अफ टास्क चेन्ज गरेर पनि हैन त्यो गर्न सकिन्छ अनि कन्टिन्युअस प्रोफेसनल डेभलपमेन्ट एजुकेसन ट्रेनिङहरूबाट म फोकस चाहिँ पर्सनलमा गर्छु हाम्रो नेपाली कम्युनिटी पार्टिसिपेन्टहरूलाई चाहिँ हैन लेजर र रिल्याक्सेसन एक्टिभिटिजहरू आफ्नो स्पिरिचुअल वेलबिङको लागि पनि अब प्रे हुन्छ कि हैन मेडिटेसन हुन्छ कि एक्सर्साइज रनिङ हुन्छ कि अब स्पोर्ट्स जे हुन्छ त्यो गर्न सकिन्छ मैले अघि भनिहालेँ फिजिकल स्पिरिचुअल इमोसनल इन्टरपर्सनल क्रिएटिभ एस्पेक्ट्सलाई ध्यान दिएर गर्न सकिन्छ केही इक्जाम्पलहरू ब्रिस्क वक जे आफूलाई सुट गर्छ कन्भिनियन्ट हुन्छ आफ्नो सिचुएसन अनुसार माइन्डफुलनेस मेडिटेसन एप्सहरू मोबाइलमा सजिलो छ आजकल एकदम इजी सिम्पल छ स्माइलिङ माइन्ड इन्स्ट्रक्सन मात्र फलो गरी पुग्छ माइन्ड द बम्प एट्सेट्रा यो के अरे एन्टिनेटल सेटिङमा हामीले गरे पनि इट्स युजफुल फर एभ्री वान क्या फ्रीमा छ यिनीहरू दुईटा मैले आज त्यही सर्टमा त्यतिमा मात्र फोकस गरेँ किनभने मेन्टल हेल्थ भनेको वास्ट 2-3 दिनको वर्कसप हुन्छ अरू चाहिँ त्यही भएर मैले स्लाइड्समा चाहिँ थोरै भने पनि सबै स्लाइड्स बेनिफिटको लागि राखिदिएको छु त्यो हेर्नु होला अनि धेरै धेरै धन्यवाद होपफुली यो युजफुल भयो होला यहाँहरूलाई भन्ने लाग्दछ इमेज क्रेडिट्सहरू च्याटमा मैले अलिकति क्वेसन्सहरू देखेको थिएँ है This brings me to the end of my presentation.
Thank you.
I saw some questions there.
Thank you, Vandana Ji. Shall I say that?
You nailed it. You nailed it.
That was really, I believe that was very informative. The only one word I learned is takaha. Takaha. That's the only word I learned. Anyway, and it just happened yesterday was the Are You Okay Day. And it is really, when I was reading through your slides, there's so many good hints like we can use for every day to check on each other, like be active listener, be calm, be empathetic, like to be empathized with other people. So there was really good hints there that you have provided. And beyond blue, I found that it was really valuable and it's some in different languages. So thank you so very much for sharing your valuable information with us. I believe my colleague Sam has a few good questions for you. Sam?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for the presentation. So I will start with the 2 questions have to do with the stigma and the community. So the first question says, acknowledging the existing mental health stigma in our community, what do you see as the biggest challenge in breaking that barrier?
You know, interestingly, I see with my generation and onwards below, especially with young, because most of my consumers are young international students below 25 years of age. I don't know, maybe because of advancement in technology and global, we have access to global media. I think our generation and below are more aware of, not to disrespect the generation above us, but we are more aware of these issues. And I think stigma is, what do you call it? Especially in Australia, even though people are not scared to access services. That is not, do not hesitate to access services. That's what I've found. Though they are hesitant in letting people from the same community, what do you call it? Even sometimes me as a Nepali bilingual mental health clinician, I've always checked in with them, because sometimes community people, they don't want you to be their clinician, right? Because words will spread around. So once I talk to them that, confidentiality, ethical, this part of my job and duty, and that I'll need to keep it confidential. And once they talk and see that, I'm here to support them genuinely, I found they've trusted me. But overall in community, sharing that, obviously the personal, very personal mental health concerns, there's still, that, remains with the mainstream community as well, it's not just with us, but we are getting, I see younger generations are getting more and more open about and aware about, accessing services for themselves to recover, to aid their recovery.
Yeah,
and answers your question.
Yeah, absolutely. And in the same topic, like, what's some of the services you recommend for people or communities who have treated mental illness as a stigma? What are some peak services you can recommend for international students?
I would have really loved to have groups, supportive groups, groups in recovery. But we do have, from Community Mental Health Center in Kogra, we run Recovery College, something called Recovery College. We have brochures and guides for that, with different free services or on classes and really different, exercises, diets, nutrition to support all that. They can get service from there for free if they are our consumers. But again, having said that, those are for our current consumers, not the ones that would be discharged. With private health insurance and they being on international visa and our medicines being really expensive, it is really challenging. I've seen a lot of challenge there, but that's why I see the need to disseminate information, aware international student youngsters more and more about cannabis-induced psychosis and its effect on their finances, on their visas, on their minds, bodies, and overall functioning.
And that's a very good segue for the next question, which is asking you, what do you think it is, a substance abuse or mental health issues in the community? Which one do you think it's more?
For me, till now, whoever I've supported, I'm fairly new into the role as well. But then, even in this short time, for me, it's been mostly cannabis-induced psychosis presentations here. So there's still studies about, whether substance use is the cause for mental distress, mental illnesses, and vice versa. But like we said, genetic disposition and even availability, prevalence, availability of more potency of synthetic cannabinoids, cannabis. There are all related factors, So I would say use of one has, in my consumers, use of one substance use has given, mental health issues. So for my consumers, what I've seen for international students below 25, it goes hand in hand.
Thank you. So 2 more questions. One is asking, do you find that mental health issues we have became more reactive than proactive in our approaches? How can we better adapt to a more proactive approach?
See, ideally, we're still, I think worldwide we'll still go with medical model, which may not be ideal, but unless and until we overhaul, the worldwide, model of practice, the ideal would be to look at all the, in my one of my slides, you'll see to look at, different ecological model, or, all the factors that leads to, for example, in COVID-19, job loss, employment loss, financial stress, visa issues, and then depression, isolation, migrant being away from home and extended family network, isolation, all that would lead to. So all that factors could be taken into account. We try our best, but it's still medical model. So it's not the ideal model, I would say, but we have to work with what we've got. But hopefully, with more knowledge and research, we'll move into the ideal best practice.
Okay, thank you. So there's a new question, says, what are the other collaboration with mental health in Nepali community you find except cannabis induced? If you can share.
From what I've, in discussion with Delilah, what Nadi Nikunj members or NRNA members have been concerned about was, another was suicide and self-harm that was seen in Nepali community. I think that would be, and I've only touched upon for now, this cannabis-induced prevalence of this cannabis use and psychosis, cannabis-induced psychosis and self-harm. Again, correlation, or the ones that I mentioned before, all those contributing factors, Sunny, again, jati relapse psychosis ko, sorry, I'm mixing Nepali there automatically. Jati अब त्यो रिल्याप्स हुँदै जान्छ नि साइकोसिसको, त्यति नै अब अरू कोरिलेसन भन्दा अरू झन् जटिल जटिल मानसिक समस्याहरू देखा पर्दै जान्छ, त्यही नै भन्नु.
So one last question. So it says, this is if for people to get you to speak to their community, do you offer free education seminars and webinars and session for international students? If yes, how we can access those sessions?
I'm sure that in our community development officer, Angela Crow, she does both for Sutherland Shire and St. George. She's done it in collaboration with Amru Rishiji, is one of our participants. They've done it in collaboration with them before as well. And there's a possibility to, talk to her and then come up with, say, in collaboration, offer such community awareness programs or even sessions as one of our participants have mentioned here. There's a possibility there, and we can explore it further. And I can get back to you after discussion with Angela too.
Thanks, Vandana. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Sam. That was really great, and a lot of questions for you, Vandana. I think this planning is in our pipeline for future. I already spoke to Secretary about this. There's a high need for the mental health area, and we're gonna keep doing online webinars. We're not gonna have probably too many guests because maybe only you, but each time we're gonna touch one topic. So it's gonna be 1 hour, maybe seminar or session, so they can benefit more and they have more time to ask the questions. So definitely I'll be in touch with you to plan future sessions and webinars. And anyone who really wanted to arrange and to talk to me about further topics they want to cover, please email me, let me know, or email Secretary to let her know, and then we can work with Vandana and her manager, Angela. I'm really pleased to hear that from the participant that there is a need for that, because that's exactly what's in our planning. Thank you so much, Vandana. Appreciate your time.